If you're enjoying this podcast from us here at Which, then why not become a Which member? Right now, we've got a special offer, especially for podcast listeners, meaning you can choose any of our 3 membership tiers for 50% off the usual price. Starting at just £39.50 for a full year, you can get Which magazine delivered direct to your door. For the same price, you could also choose a digital Which subscription, giving you access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, and the digital edition of Which magazine. What's more, you'll also be able to use the Ask Which service for personalised one-to-one buying advice. Or why not get a full access Which subscription for just £49.50 for a full year? Don't forget, that's 50% off the usual price. To join Which or to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer, or click the link in the description for today's podcast for 50% off a Which annual subscription.
Welcome to the Shoddies, the awards that nobody wants to win. These are the products and companies you should avoid. This week we'll be diving into something a little different. We'll be naming and shaming companies as part of our annual Shoddy Awards, where we highlight the products and services that can and should do better. It's very juicy stuff, and we'll be talking to many of the experts here at Which. But to start us off, we'll be hearing from the Which researcher Adam Snook, who headed up the project. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This is very juicy stuff, isn't it? In a nutshell, what are the Shoddies?
Well, yeah, it's our chance to name and shame products and companies that have most frustrated consumers, that have been problematic in various ways. So we have quite a broad criteria, anything from safety issues to misleading consumers, just being poor value for money. And our experts are always looking to this kind of thing anyway. And this is just a chance to say, actually, these are the companies that need a bit more of a spotlight on them. And in some cases, they're doing quite well in general. But there might be one particular thing they're doing badly or that we think is causing harm. So we're just trying to raise awareness of that and also offer some alternatives, because there are a lot of good companies out there as well. So we'd like to kind of provide a solution as well as criticism.
Well, talk to us a bit more then about how the judging works.
So yeah, we have a quite broad criteria, as I said, and then experts from around Which nominate products and companies based on their research in the past 12 months. And then this is long listed. And then we have a panel of experts from around the organisation, so representing lots of different views and perspectives, and then they'll, in very fine detail in a lot of cases, debate and discuss which ones we think are the worst, which ones most need highlighting, and then this will be the final shortlist, and then that's what makes it out into the awards. And
without giving any of these so-called winners away yet, they are well-known brands, aren't they? We're talking about household names. Is that a surprise?
Yeah, I think there's often people that you would expect to be doing better, and certainly products or services that get used millions, if not billions of times a year. So that's also a consideration in that how many people is this impacting? Yeah, and it'll be a whole mix of things, companies people may not have heard of, and companies that think, well, I use them almost every day, certainly every week, and just people that we think should be doing better. And in a lot of cases, there's no reason for it to be like this, certainly if it's just poor value for money or a product that just doesn't work. If it says it's supposed to do something and it doesn't, and then we've tested it and it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So yeah, it's our call for them to do better.
Well, drum roll, please. We've got you here also to give out our first award, because your day-to-day, a lot of your work sees you doing mobile networks stuff for the website, which I worked with you on as well. Let's hear the name of the first award. Which company in this area have you nominated?
So the first one was e-mobile, and this was primarily because Ofcom brought in new regulation this year saying that mobile networks and broadband companies had to state in pounds and pence how much they would increase their prices by each year. Our hope was that they'd be sort of fairly reasonable with this. But what EE have done is put a £4 a month annual increase on bundled contracts, which is where the phone and the SIM isn't split out into two prices, it's just one price. And no other network is doing this. The other big networks, so Vodafone, Free, O2, they're only increasing SIM prices, and the highest one is £1.80. So it's already double that. And generally, networks say, we're putting the prices up because we have to maintain the network. People use more 5G every year, so they have to make 5G coverage better. You can make an argument that is a fair reason, but to increase the monthly price of a phone they've already supplied, that's a fixed cost to them at the time of them selling it to you. So there's no real reason for that to go up.
And what do customers make of EE? Because I know we have done plenty of surveys. We're always doing surveys, and we've done them here too.
Yeah, the big four just very rarely do particularly well. There's a wider sense that perhaps EE is not great value for money, and it's not necessarily meeting everything customers need. But
I've got here that it ranked 7th out of 16 in our most recent survey.
Yeah, so it does okay, and customers are sort of fairly happy, but compared to the networks that we'd be giving which recommended provider endorsements to, some way behind those.
Well, can we hear some of those?
Yeah, so the alternative that I've suggested, if you are either with EE or you'd like to be on EE's network, is 1P Mobile. They actually use EE's network infrastructure, so you receive the same coverage and data speeds as you would using EE, but their deals are far cheaper.
Well, we should hear from EE. Have we heard from them?
As with all of the shoddies, they were contacted about what they're doing and asked to kind of give their side. And EE said that it offers contracts to suit customers' needs and is transparent about price increases. So our advice would be that yes, they've been transparent, and the increase is clearly there to see. There's no need to work out how much it would be. It's stated incredibly clearly, so it's very clear what to avoid essentially.
Well, thank you so much for Adam. Thank you for coming in and talking about EE, as well as covering the project as a whole. And now we're going to be heading out into the office here at Which to find out who some of the other award winners are. I'm here with Ellie Simmons, Senior Researcher and Writer here at Which. Ellie, tell us about your award.
So I nominated Tesco because it has the largest market share of all supermarkets, and it locks under 18s out of most of its discounts on everyday groceries.
And why is this, in a nutshell, why is this such a bad problem?
Well, most of those discounts that Tesco offers used to be available to everybody. Since it brought in club card prices, they're now only available for people with club cards, which is kind of fine if you're happy to hand over your data. But there are large parts of the population that can't access those club card discounts because they're not old enough. So if you're under 18, you can't get a club card, which means that discounts you used to be able to get at Tesco, you now no longer can get. So you end up paying more for your everyday groceries than most adults.
And we've talked a lot about who this affects, and one of them is young carers.
Yeah, young carers, teenagers who are looking after people, young parents. It's not just the odd snack here and there. It really can affect some of the most vulnerable in society.
And is this something that you're seeing any signs of improvement?
Not so far, no. We've asked Tesco repeatedly to look again at this restriction. We've asked them to find a solution. The Competition and Markets Authority has also suggested that supermarkets generally find solutions to this issue, but so far there's been no movement.
So in the meantime then, is there anything we can do? Are there any alternatives for the people who are locked out of Tesco Club cards?
There are some supermarket discount schemes where under 18s can sign up. They can sign up at Sainsbury's, they can sign up at the Co-op, and there are other supermarkets that offer low prices to everybody all of the time, regardless of their membership status. Aldi's a good one. It often wins our cheapest supermarket award of the month, and you don't need a loyalty card to access its low prices.
And Ellie, you've got another award for another household name. What's this one?
So we've nominated Sports Direct for its use of recommended retail prices. That's RRPs to you and me. We believe some of Sports Direct's uses of these RRPs as reference prices might be breaking the law.
In a nutshell, can you tell us why this might be?
So the Advertising Standards Authority says that an RRP should reflect what the product is generally sold at across the market. But when we looked at this, our research found examples where no other online retailers were selling at the RRP shown by Sports Direct. In fact, often their prices were the same as Sports Direct's selling price or lower. And we think that could mislead shoppers about those products' true value and what savings customers are really making at Sports Direct.
And what's the response to this investigation? Have we heard, from the regulator? Has Sports Direct come back to us?
No, we haven't heard anything from Sports Direct on it, and we've called on the Competition and Markets Authority to investigate this issue. We're keeping our fingers crossed that will happen.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you.
And now I'm sat with External Senior Affairs Officer here at Which, Gina Walker. Hello, Gina. Tell us what your award is and what it's called.
I nominated Ticketmaster for Rip-Off Merchant. We have been sounding the alarm about Ticketmaster for months on the sale of the Oasis Reunion Tour. We believe that their pricing tactics misled a lot of consumers and a lot of customers who were A, in the queue waiting to buy tickets, and B, buying tickets for a price that was more than they anticipated. And that's because there were two types of tickets on sale, a standard and an in-demand, and also a quote-unquote premium ticket that had no real benefit and didn't seem like it had any reason it should be more expensive than a standard ticket.
This is quite shocking stuff, isn't it? And for a company like Ticketmaster, another household name, again, we do expect better, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And it's such a shame that these big cultural moments like an Oasis Reunion Tour can be, marred with this kind of misleading pricing. But it's something that we're concerned about in the rest of the live events and ticketing sector, where there are a lot of issues in the landscape, and it's something which is particularly interested in about, especially with our Stop Fleecing Fans campaign. And there are issues in the secondary ticketing market. We think that there are mechanisms for touts to exploit fans and get them to pay more than they really should have.
And in this case then, do we think that Ticketmaster has broken the law? What's being done?
Yes, we do. We believe that they may have broken the law by misleading their customers. And we have been talking about this for a long time, and it's something that the CMA is also very involved in. They have opened their own investigation into the Ticketmaster sale of the Oasis tour, and Ticketmaster and the CMA are still in talks about how Ticketmaster can redress those fans. We believe that Ticketmaster should refund fans the difference of what they expected to pay and then what they ended up paying, but it's really for the CMA and Ticketmaster to negotiate themselves now.
Thanks, Gina. And the petition that you mentioned, we'll pop a link to it in the description of today's show.
Yeah, it'd be great for people to sign it. We want to hear from you and your experiences about buying tickets. So, yes, thanks for having me on.
Okay, now I'm going to hand over to our producer, James.
Yes, thanks, Lucia. I've come down to the basement and I've found Matt Knight, who looks after testing here at Which. Matt, hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Likewise. Now, tell us about your award. What's it called and who is it being given to?
Our award is called Bungling Bots, and we've awarded it. Well, really, we've awarded it to all robot vacuum cleaners as a category, but iRobot has the ignominy of the two worst robot vacuum cleaners we tested.
So tell us what is so bad about them, because they're kind of advertised as being a really good and handy thing to have in the house, right?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that they just promise so much, and we had so much hope when we decided to design a test around them. So they promise so much and just deliver almost nothing. And they cost so much as well. So if you want, again, they're promising the earth in their marketing, and some of them cost all the way up to £1,000, but lots and lots of them cost over 500 quid. And we just found that they were an absolute nightmare to set up. They very rarely behave themselves. A bit like kids, really. Very, very expensive and almost impossible to get them to do what you want them to do. But yeah, real problems with the basics of cleaning, particularly on carpet or any sort of carpet. They're quite ineffective. Some of them are okay on hard floor, but the main issue we had with them really was kind of obstacle avoidance. Some of the sort of basics of robotics that you might expect seem to be lacking in this market.
I almost hate to ask this question because it obviously seems like they're meant to deliver the earth, as you say, these robot ones. Yeah. Do we almost feel like you might be better off with a regular vacuum cleaner that you just sort of push around the house by yourself?
Well, I think that was certainly the feeling of the tester. We got to test 10 of these over the space of a couple of weeks, that some of them take so long to set up. It was taking an hour or more to set up some of these devices. you could definitely have done the job of vacuuming in that time for a lot less money as well. But I think the real kind of frustration with some of them was that even after a lengthy setup and kind of trying to prep the space that we wanted to clean as much as we possibly could, some of the robots would still struggle to return to base and charge. We had loads of trouble. Obviously, we need to design tests that are repeatable and robust. So we had the kind of specific desire that we wanted each robot vacuum cleaner to do almost the same thing. But they really do what they want. And so we found it really hard to design a test. But also when we just brought it into a person's home, like in a real life environment, I think we were saying amongst ourselves that it's like they're built for a person that maybe doesn't exist, or such a clean person anyway, a person who lives in such a minimalist flat or location that we found it really hard to find a use for them. We did find a couple. We found one that was, we thought was actually quite good, and it would navigate nearly all obstacles, and it cleaned pretty well, and that was the Dyson. But again, you're talking like much closer up there to the £1,000 mark for that type of robot vacuum cleaner. If you're shopping in the sort of lower to middle end, we really did think a lot of them are useless.
Which is a shame. But as Matt says, we've tested loads of these. Which members, you can head online, head on the app, and you can read all of our reviews. If you're not already a member and you are a podcast listener, then just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer to get a full year's membership for 50% off the usual price. Matt, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Okay, I'm back now with another senior writer and researcher here at Which, Michael Passingham. Hello, Michael.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thank you. So tell us who you've nominated and what the name of the award is.
So this award is for the Range Rover Evoque plug-in hybrid, and it got the award for the off-road off-roader because when it's faulty, it just spends ages off the road, not being driven.
And it's not the most unreliable, but it takes a long time to repair if it goes wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's far from the most reliable car, but it's not the least. But yes, when our survey results came back, and we did this survey between April and June in 2024, that was our annual car survey. When the results came back, I had to double check that there wasn't some horrendous mistake, because this car, when it is faulty, and about 40% of cars in that year did have some kind of fault. When it was faulty, it spent over 3 weeks off the road on average, which is about 4 to 5 times the average amount of time you'd expect a car to spend off the road. Normally about 4 or 5 days if a fault occurs. So yeah, this car, when it goes into the garage, it will spend a long time in there.
That's pretty shocking. And has Range Rover come back to the award?
Yes, so when we first put it to them, they did kind of quite nicely acknowledge what had gone on. They said that some of the reasons were down to the fact they moved to a new logistics facility for getting spare parts out to dealerships, that kind of a thing. So I guess that to us is let's see how they do in the next car survey to see if perhaps that new logistics centre is bedded in properly. Otherwise, this is seriously a cause for concern for Range Rover, because they don't have the best reputation for reliability in general, but this particular car just had more issues than many. It could be down to the fact that this car is perhaps more technically complex because it's a plug-in hybrid, so it has both a full petrol engine alongside a full EV battery and motor, and just lots of fancy tech on board. And if you don't have a spare part for it, well, it could take ages to get because it's pretty specialist stuff.
Well, another one we'll just have to watch this space. Thank you, Michael.
No problem.
So I'm now here with Dean Sobers, who's our insurance expert here at Which. Dean, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Your award is a bit different to everybody else's because it's not just one company you've nominated. So what's your award called and who have you nominated?
So we've nominated the home insurance industry, basically, rather than any single provider.
And you've been on the podcast quite a lot over the last few years, telling us all about the insurance sector, whether it is home insurance or car insurance. And there's always seems to be a bit of a niggle about some elements of the insurance industry. What is so bad about it to have warranted you to stick this one up for an award?
As you indicate, I've kind of been on the podcast a few times, talking a bit about our ongoing campaign and the insurance rip-off, which isn't just about home insurers. It's about all insurance, or all the kind of major insurance that people use. We're kind of looking at all sorts of different issues that we think exist in those markets, and they range from things like insurers declining too many claims, mishandling claims or managing them badly, or to things like the amounts that they charge customers that are paying monthly who can't afford to pay all at once. Home insurance stands out among these for some of the core issues here. It leads in terms of the volume of claims that it rejects. According to FCA data, about a third of claims made on buildings insurance policies are declined, and about a quarter of claims made on combined buildings and contents policies are declined. And that compares to, if you're looking at something like car insurance, it's 99% are accepted. So you're kind of looking at the difference between you having a 1 in 4 chance of your insurance claim being turned down versus a 1 in 100 chance of your claim being turned down elsewhere.
We don't think that all home insurance companies are bad, but one thing I do want to flag is our which recommended providers, of which when we last did the round of reviews, how many got the which recommended provider endorsement?
0.
Which isn't good, is it?
It's not good. The main thing that was excluding providers that had really good policies from just getting that, from
they were just right on the
that
cusp,
extra step,
weren't they?
were lackluster customer feedback. Not terrible feedback on all counts, but we just didn't have any of those that were kind of really appearing to be kind of exceptional for our surveys.
And we are trying to improve things. You mentioned the End the Rip-Off campaign that we had, and we handed in a petition of well over 100,000 signatures, didn't we, to the FCA?
Yeah.
What's our hope? What are we hoping to try and improve for customers, for consumers?
We're basically trying to put pressure on the industry and the FCA to basically up the game as far as insurance goes. And there are things that are happening. So the FCA it has ongoing reviews into claims handling, into pricing models that insurers have. So basically, it is doing work to kind of assess whether insurers are providing a service that meets its expectations and requirements.
And in the meantime, while we sort of lobby and hope for the industry to improve, what can consumers bear in mind? How can they go about and try and make sure they actually end up with an insurer and a policy that covers everything they need it to?
What they can do is they can look at our ratings on our website, which will show what our surveys find that customers who have claimed think of their products. They can also see how we've rated the cover in their products. What we would also encourage customers to do is to shop around every year at renewal to see whether the price that they're being offered seems like a reasonable one compared with what other insurers would offer them. And then a thing we'd also encourage customers to do is to really take care, if they see a deal that looks great, just to make sure that they familiarise themselves, at least to some extent, with the policy wording, with the terms and conditions, because what we find time and time again in research is that there can be certain expectations that customers will have about what's in their cover that they will later find out at the point of claim actually isn't what they thought it was.
Sound advice. Dean, thanks very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sat with Hannah Walsh, senior researcher and writer here at Which. Hannah, tell us about the Shoddy Award that you're handing out.
I'm handing out the Shoddy for Danger Domains.
That sounds very mysterious. Who is it actually for?
So this is for online marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, Etsy and TikTok Shop.
And we've talked about online marketplaces so much on the podcast over the years, really. But what actually is so bad about them?
As you said, over the years, we've exposed online marketplaces for a variety of things, including dozens of dangerous products listed for sale. In one of our latest investigations, we listed an unsafe plug-in heater for sale on Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and TikTok Shop. The heater we listed appeared identical to one that was actually recalled as far back as December 2022. We were so disappointed in the marketplace's failure to prevent this from being listed for sale. Additionally, this year we found dangerous energy-saving plugs widely available through sites including AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, Temu, and TikTok Shop. These devices falsely claim to save you money on your electricity bill by stabilising voltage and balancing electric current that will optimise your electricity. They failed to meet basic electrical safety standards, but as recently as May, they were still available for sale, despite previous investigations by Which and also a series of government recalls for similar-looking devices.
And what's actually going wrong here then? Is it regulation that hasn't caught up quite yet?
Well, firstly, we believe that online marketplaces have failed to put in place adequate checks and measures to prevent dangerous products being sold through their platforms. And these could actually be endangering consumers' lives as a result of that. We're also calling for the government to ensure that the Product Regulation and Metrology Bill gives online marketplaces clear legal responsibilities to prevent the sale of unsafe products, and for the regulator to be given enforcement powers, including the ability to impose heavy fines.
So hopefully then we'll see some change in the future. But in the meantime then, what can consumers do now to stay safe when they're shopping at these huge marketplaces?
Firstly, we recommend steering clear of brands that you haven't heard of, as well as unbranded products. We've repeatedly found unbranded products from online marketplaces to be unsafe, including carbon monoxide and smoke alarms, phone chargers, and the electric heaters that have been mentioned. We'd also recommend checking out the seller and see what you can find out about them, as well as watching out for fake reviews. Are there a suspicious number of 5-star reviews? Is everybody glowing positively about this very cheap product? That would raise a flag for us. We'd also recommend being wary of counterfeits and fakes being sold by third parties on online platforms. It's worth paying a bit more for peace of mind and bearing in mind that safety marks such as CE and UKCA marks can be faked.
Great, thanks very much, Hannah.
Thank you.
And I'm now with a senior writer and researcher at Which Travel, Trevor Baker. Hi, Trevor.
Hello.
And Trevor, you've also got 2 awards for us today. Where shall we start?
Well, should we start with Booking.com?
Yes, and what award have you nominated them for?
Booking.com have been awarded for being soft on scams. So the problem with Booking.com is, well, part of it is that they're very good at what they do in some ways. They're very slick, they're very efficient, they're very fast if you want to book a hotel, but they're also very fast if you want to list a hotel as an accommodation owner. And what I found is when I set up a fake listing on Booking.com to test how they work, that they were, I could set up a house on there in less than 15 minutes, and there were no proper checks of my identity. When people are receiving scam messages, it's very easy to fall for it because you can reply straight away. Everything's on your app, everything's on your phone, and everything works really well, really fast until you actually want to speak to a human being, and that's when it all goes wrong, because we've been contacted by so many people who say, I've been scammed on Booking.com, or I've seen a listing which doesn't really exist, and then they're saying I've been phoning the helpline and there's nobody getting back to me and I'm not getting any response.
And it's not the first time we've investigated Booking.com, is it?
No, we've had lots of complaints about them over the last probably 18 months at least. So I've done 2 investigations. I know there was somebody recently in this very office who his mum and dad found that their house had been put on Booking.com by fraudsters. So we looked into that, and Booking.com removed the house from their listing, but it was just nothing to do with them at all, and fraudsters had just found it on another listing site and pretended it was on Booking.com, and they had people coming to their door and knocking on the door saying, I'm here for my Booking.com stay. And it didn't exist.
That is so shocking. I mean, my mouth dropped when you gave me that example. So for anybody, who's stuck in these positions, it does seem like it's too easy for people to exploit the system. How has Booking.com responded?
I mean, it has said it's made some changes. It's introduced 2-factor authorization to try and make it a little bit harder for people to hack into the booking systems of the hotels and accommodation providers that it works with. But I still don't think it's done enough. We're still hearing stories of people being scammed. So, it needs to protect people more.
Another one, we'll have to watch this space. And on to then the second nomination of yours. Tell us more.
So the second one is British Airways. So I've been writing about British Airways now in our annual airline survey for about 8 or 9 years. And when we first started writing about them, we always used to say, people will be surprised to hear that British Airways is not as good as it used to be, or people will be very disappointed. And in the end, we've had to stop saying that because I think most people realise now that British Airways is not like the super flag carrier that people maybe hoped it was 15, 20 years ago.
So what's so bad about it? And are we talking, both short haul and long haul?
It's long haul where they finished joint bottom of the survey this year, which is the first time ever they've been joint bottom. I think what's happened is the customer score they've got this year is similar to that they've had in previous years, but other airlines that used to be below them have improved or have certainly got higher scores than they used to have. And people just seem to be kind of getting a bit fed up with British Airways on long haul. In short haul, they're also not doing great. Ryanair is still below them, but not that far below them anymore. So it's generally across the board. But long haul is where you particularly notice that they're down at the bottom of the table.
And they're not doing particularly well when it comes to last minute cancellations either, are they?
No. So in the last year for which we have data, there's more than 2% of their flights were cancelled within 24 hours before the scheduled departure, which is a lot worse than if you look at Jet2 or other airlines. Jet2 is like 0 point something or other. It's much, much higher than any of their competitors, much higher than Ryanair even, much higher than everybody else really.
But what have they said in response to this year's nomination?
I mean, they say that every year they say that they're investing money in improving services, and they're trying to do the best they can to kind of improve the service they provide. They say that AI is helping them improve their punctuality and hopefully their cancellation rate. But it remains to be seen next year whether they've managed to improve at all.
Is there an airline that you would recommend as being, a table topper?
Jet2, definitely. Jet2 is the Which recommended provider, and every year for years now they've been the highest rated of the short haul airlines. They're very good kind of across the board. For long haul, we recommend Emirates are good. They're a Which recommended provider for long haul. Virgin Atlantic are good for transatlantic flights.
Well, that's been super helpful, and thank you so much for sharing your nominations.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to all of our experts for naming and shaming. I should say that we didn't cover them all, and that you can find out more on the other winners on the website. And we'll pop a link in the description of today's show. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this podcast from Which, the UK's consumer champion. You can find plenty more advice about what we discussed today in the show notes. There you'll also find a link to become a Which member for 50% off the usual price, an offer exclusively available to you, our podcast listeners. Joining Which will not only give you access to our product reviews, our app, one-to-one personalised buying advice, and every issue of Which magazine across the year, but you'll also be helping us to make life simpler, fairer and safer for everyone. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you'll be notified whenever we release a new episode of Which Money, Which Shorts, or any other podcast that we make for you. And if you want to get in touch with us, then follow us on social media at Which UK, or drop us an email to podcast@which.co.uk. See you next time.
Do you want to reduce your energy bills? Or maybe you want to use greener energy? Go solar and get a discount. Right now, Which members can get a 7.5% discount on solar panels and their installation if you use Heatable, a Which trusted trader approved service. You can also include a storage battery and EV charger, handy if you're looking at making the switch to an electric car. To make use of this exclusive offer, simply head to which.co.uk/solar-offer. That's which.co.uk/solar-offer before the 30th of September 2025. And if you're not already a Which member, you can grab a year's membership for 50% off the usual price. To do that, go to which.co.uk/podcast offer to get involved. Start your solar journey today. Go solar and get a discount with Which.